Okay, so now for the second part of the lecture, I'm going to briefly discuss what features you need to make a good map. This is important because you'll be making maps throughout the semester on your current event assignment, as well as perhaps for your place analysis project. But another reason that this is important is because you'll also be looking at a lot of maps, and it's important to think critically about their social construction and how they represent things, and again, what features are present to help you judge the quality of the maps that you're looking at and the geographic information that's presented to you. So I'm going to briefly go over some ideal map features. The first two might seem quite basic, the idea of having a title and an author, but these are important for a couple different reasons. The title is important because often the maps that we see are zoomed into a rather small area, and we might have no concept of what this area is if it's someplace that we're not familiar with. So the title gives us a sense of where it is we're looking at, and the title can also clue us into some of the data that might be represented in the map itself. So be sure that your maps have a title and look for titles on the maps that you see. Another important feature is the author of the map. Again, this gives us a chance to be able to make a judgment about the validity of the information that's being presented, and gives us a chance to take into consideration some of the biases that might go into the creation of this map. Some other features that are really important for map making are the legend. The legend is the explanation of what a map's symbols mean. So there's an example below here of a legend from a park map, and we see all kinds of different information presented here and many different symbology. We have different activities, facilities that are available, amenities, different ground covers, water features, as well as roads, railroads, those sorts of things. So the legend tells us what all of those symbols mean. And it might seem pretty straightforward with this map because the symbols that they're using are very pictorial, but on a lot of maps we need more information to be able to figure out what it is we're looking at. Another feature that's really important is something called the map scale. Map scale tells us the relationship between distance on a map and distance on the ground. And this will often be presented in one of three or perhaps all three ways. You might see it shown in terms of a proportion. For example, we see 1 to 18,000. So 1 inch on the map would equal about 18,000 inches on the ground. We might see it written out. So for here we say 1 inch equals approximately 1,500 feet. And we might also see it as a pictorial scale. So we see here the scale showing from 0 to 1 mile. So this is important so we have a sense of the size of an area and the distances that we're dealing with. I know for myself, I'll often look at a map and say, it's not that far, I can walk it. But if I haven't paid attention to the scale, I might have a really skewed version of what the distance on the ground is from the distance on the map. The third feature, the last feature that's really important in terms of map features is orientation. Orientation is the relationship between the directions on a map and the corresponding compass direction. So as we discussed in the first part of the lecture, the norm for map making is often to represent map features with north as the top of the map. But maps don't necessarily have to use that representation. So the orientation will tell us, and we can look for the map arrow showing where north is, that sort of thing, to give us a sense of what that direction is. So that can also become important if we're using maps on our phone. A lot of maps on phones will have a built-in compass that can actually change the map depending on the direction that we might face. But again, orientation is important here so we know that relationship. I know a lot of times I'll be looking at my map on my phone and find myself walking the wrong direction because I messed up the orientation on the map. So keep these things in mind. And what I want to ask you all to do now is a discussion activity that's on Blackboard. It's under the discussion board. And in class we would be pulling out paper maps and looking at them, but since we don't have class today, we're going to do it this way. we're going to use the Blackboard discussion board and find a map that's of interest to you. It might be a paper map that you have sitting around wherever you're at, or it can be a map on the internet. This could be Google Maps or a static image, anything that you want to find. So create a post on the discussion board where you insert the image of your map. If it's a paper map that you have at home, you can take a picture of it or scan it and upload it, or you can link to it from somewhere on the internet, and there's some directions here on how to do that. Briefly describe what the key features are on your map and how they're represented, and then briefly discuss how is this map useful, what's it useful for, and what problems or questions arise from the map. So create your post and then comment on two of your peers' posts by comparing or contrasting your maps. The deadline for this is before the next class period, so as long as you're able to do this, you'll get attendance and participation points for Monday's class, even though we didn't meet. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me. Otherwise, have a safe rest of your day.